Hi, I'm Cyril. I'm an animal care intern here at the Bolsa Chica Conservancy, and today we're going to be doing a live animal snake feeding. We're actually going to feature a snake that hasn't been featured before. We're going to do Rogue, our ball python. So she's actually going to be eating a kind of bigger rat pup. Just a warning, if you don't want to continue watching this video, it might actually make a louder noise than our mice do, so it might be a little bit more uncomfortable for some of our viewers, but if you're comfortable with it, I personally think this will be a really interesting video because she's such a big snake. It'll be a quick constriction and everything like that, and there's some facts about her that are different from other native species here. So I'm going to go ahead and get Rogue, our ball python, out. She's kind of tangled in the sticks, so I'm going to have to move the sticks so that she can get out. So Rogue, or ball python, is definitely not a native species, which is probably good news to some of you guys. She was kind of like a pet for someone and abandoned in a parking lot. And that's how she ended up here. But don't be afraid. She's kind of a scaredy cat, so she'll like flinch for me and stuff like that, but she's really a good girl. Come here. So I'm going to take her to a feeding tank. We do a separate feeding tank so that they don't associate their own tanks with food, so that when we grab them, they're not scared of our hands and try to bite us. So I'm going to go ahead. She's very smart and she knows where the rat is. I'm going to go ahead and bring the rat out. Once again, just a warning for people. Come here. So I'm going to toss it to the opposite side. So Rogue is a constrictor. We do not have any venomous snakes at our center, but the constrictors, they do have fangs, but it's more just to grab a hold of their prey, and then they're going to wrap their body around it and do a quick constriction. So it's a very quick process. See, she bit, and then immediately after, she does a very quick constriction. She is a very muscular lady. She's very tight with the constriction. It'll be a very quick second. And then it'll be when they notice that the mice is no longer breathing that they're going to start to open their mouth and start to swallow the rat whole. So with snakes, they actually will swallow everything whole because they're capable of digesting everything at once, even the bones and the fur, which is different from like birds. So if you ever hear about like owl pellets and stuff, it's because owls and other birds aren't capable of swallowing and digesting the bones and the fur. So they're going to poop out like a kind of hairy poop. It's kind of interesting. But the snakes, for them, they have very high digestive systems and stuff like that. For example, some of our king snakes here at our center are capable of eating other snakes and even rattlesnakes, which are venomous, because they have such a high metabolism that they can break down the venom. One interesting thing about the biology and the anatomy of snakes is that they're kind of, because they're so elongated, almost all of the snakes have one really long lung. But for Rogue here, a ball python, she actually has two really long lungs just because of how much air in the whole system is so much bigger than the rest of our snakes. So when she starts to realize that the rat is no longer alive, she's going to start to dishinge her jaws. So snakes are very, very capable of eating things that are much larger than their heads, almost 2 or 3 times. So that's why you'll tend to see them have such big heads and kind of like a lump in their stomachs, because they'll just swallow everything whole. It might be kind of a slow process. Snakes have different lengths of time it takes for them to swallow things and stuff like that. So I just wanted to point out that we are not a rehabilitation center. We are a conservancy. So none of our animals that are here are ever going to go back into the wild because they have a very set system of eating. They're too used to interacting with humans. They're too used to a very stable environment that they would not be able to survive in the wild. So that's why all of our animals will pretty much live here throughout their whole life and get spoiled and everything like that. Everyone here has their favorites and stuff like that. Rogue's one of my favorites. She's just cute. I'm probably one of the weird ones that think snakes are cute, but I do. One interesting fact while we wait for her to eventually realize that her prey is no longer alive is that there's an interesting way to tell the difference between venomous and constrictor snakes. Constrictors, like Rogue, as she's unwinding here, hopefully you can see her head, have round eyes. So let's see if we can see her head when she pops back up. They have round eyes, while venomous snakes have kind of like cat-like slanted eyes. But hopefully you never get close to a venomous snake to know. Our only venomous snakes here at the wetlands are rattlesnakes. Those are the ones that you'll hear before you see. So generally, if you see any snake on the trails though, just keep your distance. They will strike at you if you get too close and they feel threatened, but generally they will not be up in your business. All right, you can see her round eyes, and you can also notice how she's dishinging her jaw. So snakes like to start at the head because generally it's easy to slide the head and the shoulders down. But some of our snakes are kind of a little bit dorks and will start from like the butt or the middle, and it's a little harder for them to swallow. But Rogue's pretty good at this. So snakes, like other animals, will actually go through molting phases, and that's when they'll shed their skin. So other animals that do that at our center are like our crustaceans, like the crabs and our California spiny lobster. Our lizards also do too. Some common house pets are dogs and cats. A lot of them, also birds, will shed their feathers from time to time. Pretty much anything will shed them, and it's pretty much just a sign that they're ready for the next stage of life. Snakes can shed from 4 to 12 times a year, and it just generally means that they've grown too big for their usual skin. So you can tell the age of a snake by the space between their scales. So the older they are, there'll be a little bit of a gap between their scales. The younger they are, the more tightly coiled their scales are because they still have room to expand for growth. Rogue's doing a good job. Sometimes our snakes will miss when they're trying to get their prey, and then they get embarrassed and they have to wait a few minutes before they try again. But Rogue was pretty good today. While we're waiting for her to swallow, I can bring up a diagram of a snake's anatomy. So snakes are very similar in anatomy to humans, actually. The only difference is just how long and elongated a lot of the organs are. And of course, they're missing a few of them too. But they generally have everything like we do, like the heart. But one big difference is they have one lung. But hopefully, like I said before, Rogue has 2 lungs just because of the size of her body, and that she's actually able to fit it. Just like that, we also have the super long esophagus, a very elongated liver, stomach that has the really strong metabolism, digestive enzymes to break down the bones and the hair. And just like that, a very long intestine. I'm not quite sure the actual length of the intestine, but I imagine it's very wrapped up and coiled like ours and stuff like that. This is particularly a rattlesnake diagram. You could tell because there is a rattle at the end. Hopefully you don't get close to the rattlesnakes though to ever see that part. All the rest of the snakes at our conservancy are all native except for Rogue here. But we just thought it'd be pretty cool to show her in one of the videos for once, because usually she's not one of the spotlight feeding animals, because sometimes the rat pup is a little noisy and some people get uncomfortable. But oh, she's almost done. We always call this part like the spaghetti tail, when the tail is just hanging from the head. You'll see she does kind of like an S-shaped move to try to force everything down. That's where her muscles are contracting and shifting the whole weight of the rat down. And just like that, the rat has completely disappeared almost, except for that spaghetti tail. We give the snakes a few minutes to digest, to wait for the rat to go down. Oh, sorry, did I scare you? We wait for the rat bump to go down a little bit, because if you pick them up too soon and you're holding them wrong, they can actually be forced to regurgitate their food because you're holding them upside down. So sometimes it could be a painful process for them, so we wait for a little bit for them to eat. And just like that, Rogue has finished eating. That's about it for the live animal feeding today. Just a heads up, our center is open to the public. We do ask that only 5 people are inside at a time, and that there is masks on at all times, and that you do social distance. The trails, you don't have to have the mask on at all times, but if you are passing someone, we ask that you do too. The trails are open from sunrise to sunset, and please be safe when you're doing everything, and I hope you guys have a great week. Bye!